Okay, so I'm gonna start by talking about the weather because it's wild. But last night was like, man, I was conked out. Even when Stella started stirring around and I paused to think it didn't stop last night. And it was over 7 hours. I was like, hell yeah. And then plus in dream state, I got to hang out with my person. I was very busy, and so it was really cool. I was like, once I was awake, I was like, oh, I want to go back. I want to go back. And I was like, damn it. So, anyways, I don't know. I think I've been awake since like 2:30. It's like 3:30 now, and it was like everybody is like, once that energy goes ripples out. Like I'm awake, then it just ripples out. So, but there's quite a few things I want to touch on. And here it was so crazy because it's just been raining and raining and raining and raining and raining and raining, and it'll just pour all night, and sometimes it'll start uh, the wind and stuff, and so it'll be really stormy at night. But I had seen so many places that they get hit at night with these storms, and you just don't even know. Like, so I was just sitting here in the morning. It was done recording and stuff. I don't know, I was maybe still working on the downloading part. I don't know. But I looked out the window. I started being like, those raindrops are looking awfully big. And I was like, dang, that's snow. And it just was pouring. It just was pouring and pouring. And it just was building and building. And it was so heavy. The snow is so heavy and so dense. I mean, I don't know what the hell you know, if it's I just don't know what the hell they do. Like, it's so weird. So the snow is so heavy and so dense, and it's all the branches of these giant trees start going down, down, down. They're hanging way down. They're just full and heavy, and the snow is building higher and higher. Well, Stanley Jackson, he got to see snow for the first time. He was very timid at first. He's not keen on the rain, but he'll still go out and run around in it. But he's not keen on it. But the snow, and he's like very timid. But then he was like, hell yeah. Dogs always start loving snow once they go out and play in it. And then him and Stella were out running and playing in it. So I think she's kind of sore because they were playing so much. They were having so much fun. And they were out there playing, and I started doing some videos of just showing it. It was like so quick. It went from nothing to a winter wonderland, and it was so odd. I wasn't expecting it because we had that warning we were going to get a couple of feet, I think, last weekend, and then it never came. And on the TikTok thing, when I was looking for what was going on, every time I would come across weather things, it was over by Tennessee and Texas. And they were saying Texas is having some stuff. And then I started seeing Tennessee. And then when you see footage of the tornado, it's gruesome. It's so big. And I guess it's similar to the one that fucked over Kentucky. So I don't even know all the damage that's going to come out. I've heard some people died. I heard some people died and stuff, and I'm sure there's a lot of disasters, on people's houses, stuff. Like, tornadoes are violent, man, especially these ginormous ones that they're making. And that time traveler guy had talked about that too, that these giant, giant tornadoes would start being a thing. And so anyways, I had all that disaster going on over here. So I'm showing, our snowstorm. And then as soon as my thing stopped recording, this giant, like, loud crashing came. This big giant limb came from, because there's a lot of dead trees out here now because of all the, Roundup that's been sprayed. And then, this branch came flying down in snow. It was so loud, the dogs, like, freaked out. And then it fell down and it busted. So I went and gathered it up and put it over for my wood pile. But it was so loud and so dramatic. And I was like, shit, more of them are going to start falling. That was the only one that I heard fall at my house. I mean, when you hear this stuff fall, it's so loud. And especially when it's like coming from very high. And these branches break off. Like a branch could break off and crash down on your car. Like, they aren't the same size as some of these giant trees, because I just saw a giant tree across somebody's car in the Tennessee tornadoes. But they still do damage. Like, if one of those branches fell on you, it would take you out. And, or at least hurt you really bad. It depends probably on how it depends on if it's your time. Depends on if that's your way out, which is curious, because, the lady who did the Fall of the Cabal, if you haven't seen it, I saw it in 2020, I think. And it is very eye-opening documentary. It's a docu-series. It was divided in 10 parts when I had seen it. And I had seen it on here. And I think the only way to find it now is like Rumble or Telegram or something. But anyway, she's gone missing. And people are saying that she might have done herself in and stuff. I don't know. I would think if she went missing, that would be a drama for protection. But you got to remember, anytime that somebody does themselves in, no, you can't go unless it's your time. You just can't. Like, there's people, like, I mean, it's hard to put your mind around it because there's so many different things that happen. Like, I think back even in 2020, there was different people who were speaking out, like her. There was different people who were speaking out. And some of them have, were taken out. And like one guy, I feel sure he was taken out by an aerosol. And he was outspoken and he was speaking out. And so he was gone. And that was big talk for a while. I can't remember his name, but if you were back on YouTube watching stuff in 2020, because there was, because when I started seeing all this stuff live, and we started going more into the docu-series and all that stuff, that was a different group of people. Like, there was spiritual YouTube, and I was watching that through, I don't know, 2016, 2017, 2018, something like that. And then 2019, I moved over here, and it was really busy the first, right before quarantine. But from between when I moved and quarantine was like a year, and I was busy. I don't remember watching anything really. But before watching spiritual stuff, is when I started learning so much about the event and the solar flash. There was so much stuff like with the Book of One, Seth, like there was tons on channelers and QHHT things. Like there was a lot. And then 2020 is when, everything like shut down. And then it was like, well, I went on to YouTube and there was live videos all the time. It was really fun. And that's where I started hearing these people do these breakdowns on that letter. And it was very interesting. It was intriguing because, I knew about technology and Looking Glass already. And so when I would hear this stuff, I would be like, oh, this is real. This is, this is real. And so there was people who were talking about that. People who were talking about what was going on. People who were talking about the sickness. People who were sharing all this stuff. There was the one guy, he ended up going, in 1-6. He ended up in jail for a while. He has a new documentary out too. I can't remember his name, but he used to be live all the time in 2020. And I would go in his lives. I would talk to him a bunch of times. But he had a huge following. I can't remember his name either. But you would go on these people's lives, and you'd be talking and they'd start talking to you. And so you had it was really fun. And that guy was really cool. And if you're trying to figure out who I'm talking about, his would always be, they would always be smoking. They would be having bong, and a lot of times he would have a Zoom call and there would be a bunch of people, everybody be smoking and talking about what was going on. It was just really kick back. And then he had, I don't know, links to Hollywood and stuff. He did like Pedo Wood. He did a few documentaries. His are good too. I don't know what his new one is out, but I think he made it since he was released from the 1/6 incident. And he could be back in too. Like, I don't know how to keep up with all these people. There were so many people I was following then. That's when I started noticing that the spiritual wasn't keeping up. I started noticing that great divide in 2020 when I would go in and I would run across some different live ones, and it would be some spiritual people, and the things that they would be saying, I'd be like, oh man, they're out of touch. What the hell's going on? Like, if you're spiritual, like, I don't know, like this, it's a spectrum, but there's definitely a phony spirituality that's being marketed. Because true spirituality, and anybody who's been practicing it for a long time knows, it has nothing to do with all the bullshit. Like, it has nothing to do with what fucking stones you have in your house, how many candles you burn, what color the candles are. None of that shit that they're trying to say. And then even when you hear these people, it's like you're not going in harmony with energy. You're trying to control it. That's another level. Like, that's not. That's like down here. We're elevating, and so I was like, I started seeing a bunch of holes in what people were talking about, and then they just seemed so oblivious, and they were lining up, man. They were all lining up, and then they were all start following the narrative of how they would talk, and they would, not want to it was wild. And I started really seeing this splitting apart, where I could see through the spiritual thing all the way back in 2020. I just didn't know how much it was going to affect people until, when my daughter was here, and it was, I don't know, 2021, so messed up on time. And she was on TikTok, and she was following that TikTok spirituality, which to me, I think it's even a side, I think it's kind of done on purpose to lead people the wrong way, because they got to cover all their bases. And then, as time has gone on, we've seen that spirituality was infiltrated, and it still is. And, just like religion is all about control. They couldn't let spiritual people, but those of us who have been practicing, it didn't, all of a sudden, it wasn't a trend for us. We've been practicing it for years and years, decades in my case. So we've been practicing a long time, and we've been, laughed at and shunned and called ridiculous and all these names that they come up with if you don't follow along with the assigned lifestyle, the provided lifestyle by this habitat. If you don't follow along, you're laughed at. But the true spirituality is the path to self. It's being able to, this person saying this is the way, and you go, well, that doesn't feel like my way, and you got to go with what's inside you. And it's a lot to it, and it's gotten a lot more as things have progressed. Now I see how much it has to do with healing, which to me, doing, practicing spirituality for so long, it was more of a daily or routine reflection, and, spending time in communication with your higher self, trying to understand things in a broader perspective, staying true to yourself. And, and that is another thing too, because even through my journey, when I would think I was being true to myself, there was things I wasn't being true to myself that caught up with me in the end, that I had to face when I had to face my dark self, my dark, the shadow self. And so, but that's the way it's supposed to be. So you're not messing up. It's supposed to be the way it is. And people keep thinking like, they're doing something wrong, they messed it up. But, there's just so much being misled, because the whole thing is you finding your truth, the truth of you, what you believe, and getting comfortable with it. And, and to me, it was natural. to try and understand in a broader perspective. Like, I knew religion was lying, and so going out to find what I believed in. What do I think? Crossing over boundaries that other people wouldn't. People thought it was weird that I looked into Buddhism. People thought it was weird that I believed in spirituality. People thought it was weird, real weird. I mean, talk about reincarnation is still being laughed at. But I mean, you have no idea before. I mean, there's a lot more people open to it now. I mean, you used to talk about it before. People would think you were the strangest thing. Like, nobody could accept that you're born over and over and over, that you're making choices, that you're here for a purpose. Everybody was real comfortable with it, just as like it's an accident and there's this almighty God up there. They even create it like it's weird what they're willing to believe. To me, is so strange, and it makes no sense, which is even stranger to me. Like, you're trying to force it to make sense. It makes no sense. And so it is, to me, you got to find what feels right to you. And when I read about reincarnation, I just knew. I mean, I just knew. And then you have to read. I mean, there's so much. Like, I've been doing this for so long, and and it's not like you have to reinforce it. Like, it is it's an unfolding. It's I don't know. It's just so much competitive now. It's an ego driven. It's strange, but you gotta break free from that. And you gotta. It's just weird because people are so trained to think in this other way, and some of the things, because there's a lot of people. I have a lot of people talking to me all the time who are in crises, and so I will. Um, there's a few things I want to say, is because I think other people have the same thing, and for one thing, I think it's really important to realize that when you're feeling really horrible, you're really stuck in guilt and shame, and you're feeling like you're the worst person in the whole wide world. Really, you got to put this in perspective, that this is the universe that is presenting you to you. Like I've said throughout this whole thing, that it was going to be like the universe was going to suddenly put a mirror up before you, and all you're going to be able to see is what's wrong with you. It's going to be so loud and it's so intense that it's overwhelming, and that and this is about to go even grander scale, because the lights haven't even come on yet. And so but I'm sure everybody's got people who are around them who are, it's hitting them already. And so you gotta, when all you can see is this negative side of yourself, the universe is showing you it's showing you, because you're trapped in victim mentality. So you're going through life thinking you're the victim. Oh, poor you. And it's everybody else. Everybody else is an asshole. You're just this poor defenseless victim that's been treated bad your whole life. And people will get angry. People do all sorts of different things. People get angry. People become people pleasers. People become manipulative. People become drug addicts, people become alcoholics, like all different things happen. But this right now, what the universe is doing, is a favor to you, even though it seems like it's so harsh, like a punishment. But it is, you have only been seeing one side, so you have to see your dark side so that you can understand, because it's a process by going through you being able to learn to accept yourself. Then you can accept others, because you have to see you're also the bad guy. You've hurt a lot of people. Everybody's hurt people. You can't go through this life without hurting other people. And when you start processing through your darkness, the monster inside of you, when you start processing through that, yeah, it's horrible, it's hard, it's challenging. You know, you'll be overwhelmed. It will be consumed. It will be all you can see. And but you can't get stuck there. And even when you do get stuck there, it's stuck in ego, because then it's like, now you've got to be the victim more, like poor me, look at, you know, you got to process through it. The process is to learn to accept yourself, because the end game is to love yourself and to love everyone else. And so in the process of seeing your bad guy, helps you understand, oh, these people aren't just bad guys trying to hurt me. These people are just like me. They're all doing the same, like we're all just doing the same thing. We're hurting each other because we have toxic characteristics that we need to heal. So this process of holding the mirror up in front of you is to see that other side. So you can see this dark side that lives inside of you. So you can release this victim mentality. So you can release this hatefulness. So you can forgive, because it changes the energy. I just saw this woman. It was like a quick second. I didn't keep listening because, you know, I heard all I needed to hear. Because she was saying that, oh, what was she? Something about God. She was saying, the scientists right now are scrambling. They're all freaking out because they don't want to admit that there's a God, that there's something more than science, just because this storyline has been so profound to people. Like, it's weird how they all have believed this. And especially weird is because I know the truth is inside of you. You always had that phone line, that connection to something outside of you. It's like everybody just snip that. I like this storyline better. We're just accidentally here. There's this huge God who, you know, and the devil, he's down here, and all the demons and all this stuff. And in the same way that you think about that I think about, that the dark energy not being demons, not being this manipulative, you can think of it as a manipulative, but it's, again, in a sense of survival. And so it is trying to survive. It is a dark energy that's looking as parasitic, so it's trying to hold on to you. And it is a condensed emotion, and it feeds off of your pain and suffering to make its emotion bigger and feel better. So it charges it, so it feels good. So that's dark energy. And then when you think about the God, so you've got science, you know, they're always trying to compete with God, or, you know, trying to figure out, you know, it's weird because all the people, the academics and the people who follow science, they're just like cut off, and they make weird excuses for things and stuff. It's strange, but things are, you know, becoming so crystal clear that you have to start, you know, questioning your reality. And a lot of scientists, I think a lot of scientists even know about what's going on the planet and stuff. And a lot of scientists in any science community, you got to stick on the narrative. They take people down. They'll ruin people's lives. Like, all, you know, if you're in that community, you got to see some of this shit. And so you've the scientists now who are starting to become aware of, you know, what if this God thing is real? And what if there really is more to this? What if we really do go on? What if we really don't die? And, you know, they think the way out is breaking out of the firmament or something, breaking through to the other side. It's like, you can't break through to the other side without the frequency. You got to be the right frequency. And this game that we're in lowers our vibration to play this game. We have to go into the darkness, into a place where, you know, we're battling dark energy, we're battling toxic behaviors. You know, it's a battle. And so so she's talking about the scientists now are kind of scrambling. They're kind of like, you know, is this religion thing real? And the thing about religion is it's not real either. There is no man-made God. You know, God is like us standing up in the sky, and he's so much bigger and better than us and all that stuff. And she was saying, you know, God is love. And so, you know, I've tried to say this before, but I thought, okay, use this. So in the same sense of, you know, this dark energy, and it is an emotion that is trying to feel. And us going through these processes, like these games and stuff, and these they're games, but they're like dreams too. It's like everything is because you are an energy, but you can, see yourself. You can create yourself, and in this density, it gives a place to create this image and feel this stuff. But there's a lot going on here. And so you learn and you battle the dark to become a pure version of self. The pure version of self is the fractal of what love is. Love together, all the love together is what creates the love, the God. That is the God is all of the love together that is, you see what I'm saying? Like you have the dark energy that is an emotion, and then you have the light, the purity, the pure energy of love. And in going through these life chamber battle scenes, it gets you to move into your purest form of love because of just like what's going on here right now with this having to see yourself, to witness yourself, to get out of victim mentality, like the world's out to get you, to realize, oh, I'm a player in this. I've hurt them, I've hurt them, I've hurt them, and to recognize your own role so that you can heal, because that is the process to get to the purest act of love, the purest form of love. And that is where all love is created. It's us. We are the creators. We are the ones you know, who bloom this love. We put love into existence because we go through the process to find love, to bring it forth, to choose love. And so love is the ultimate. And even like when like I've said before, Mateus DeStefano on Gaia Channel on his show Initiation, he says when you get up to the very top, which I think a lot of people go to this place when they do some drugs. And that's another thing too, is these people who are all caught up in spirit. Some of these people who like went and did ayahuasca, mushrooms, or whatever, they go do these plant medicines and they have a spiritual awakening and they remember who they are, but then they don't turn it into a daily practice. It's like they connect to themselves through going and doing drugs again or something. It's like it's a practice. It's a becoming. It's not just like, yeah, I did ayahuasca, I got a bunch of crystals, and it's not about that. It's not glamorous. It's there's lots of times. I spent time bawling my head off alone, asking the universe, why? Why am I going through this? Why? Because you're here to go through this shit. Because you're here to grow. You're here to create. You're here to challenge yourself. And so what he said, though, Mateus DeStefano said, when you get up to the highest, he said it's just like it's empty. It's like empty space. There's like nothing there. There's no judgment. There's nothing. And he said that's the motivation to the soul of questioning who and what am I. And when you think about this ascension, like you can think about these things on different levels, because everything is micro, macro, everything is representative of itself. But when you think of this journey to love and going through this stuff to find love and then to get to the purest form where there's no judgment, it puts you back into trying to understand, where does it come from? How do we get there? And so it's like an ascension. It's like a circle. It's like a movement. It's like, it's how the universe works. It's not like, once you get to that place where there's no judgment and there's, it's the place of nothing, because there is, nothing to judge. It's like like it's like going right now we're in the process of creating love. When we get through this, like all the people who process through, the people who are here for the next part, like, and I don't know who all is here for the age of Aquarius, and each person knows inside themselves, I think. But going through this process, you think of the celebration of love, when you master, your ability to control your mind, to control your, it's not control your destiny. You can't control your destiny. You can't control fate. You can control your attitude. You can control how you look at things. You can control your relationship with the universe when you're going through the process. Because so many people, they turn their back on God. They turn their back on the universe. The universe is out to get them. It's like, but you are the one who, this is your flight plan. Yeah, this destiny, but you're the one who created it. So you can't sit there and hold your anger out on this God creature that you are, it goes back to you. And, the more that you understand in spirituality, that's why, I'm always saying, you got to just keep looking into things. Oh my God, I'm so sore. God, it feels like my butt is going to sleep. It's, but so it's you. There's no one to blame but yourself. And so when we're going through this process and we get to this time where we all can feel love, that's like a celebration. That is like we've reached this peak where we can feel love. And even when, because you won't be able to just feel it all the time. I mean, you will definitely be irritated and stuff. And that's when you don't shame yourself. You don't go like, oh my God, I'm not really love. I'm not really pure. I'm not real. No, that's when you start doubting yourself, questioning yourself. And then it's like, why? Why am I doubting myself? Why am I questioning? What am I comparing myself to? Who am I comparing myself to? And so you got to always be going back, to understand yourself. And so, but getting into that like celebration of like, we've reached this point where we can be loving and accepting. We reach this purity. And then even when, somebody does irritate you or something does happen, to be able to just process through it doesn't mean you have to go in and clear out every time and, clear yourself out of having this other side. Then you're shaming this other side of yourself, which you need both sides. This side is there for a reason. You need it through different lives. You need to be able to protect yourself. You need to be able to see what's good and what's bad. You need to, so it isn't something to say, well, I'm getting rid of my dark side. I'm getting rid of my ego. I'm getting rid of, no, you got to come into balance. It's about balance. It's about awareness. It's about making choices for yourself. It's about your attitude. And so, but as we go through this process and we reach this point of love and acceptance, then we get to that. But then if you keep going, then it starts becoming like, the love becomes just, I don't know. It's not like, it's like there's there's like a point of the purest form, the most condensed version, but there's, it isn't the top part. It isn't, it's like you can go past that and then you circle back and start over again. And so you go past the love, you go through it. And, but this is like on a spiritual level. You go through and get, you go through the game, you reach your point of finding the purest love. You get to, the experience of the purity. And then, in this ascension too, see, we're not going to die out of it. Like how there's going to be people who will, die. They'll pass, they'll leave the game. But see, those of us who are going forward, we're not going to do that. We're not going to die to go back to our true selves. We're connecting with our true selves and pulling ourselves towards our true self. instead of dying and reconnecting. We are, oh, I see you. Okay, I'm hearing you. I'm listening, and pulling ourselves to that. But once you, let's see, because it's all these different levels of, because the motivation, like how Matthias Sestafina was explaining, that's the motivation, that empty place where it's just love, no judgment, there's nothing, no emotion, no, because we need these emotions to feel and stuff. And so when you get to that point where you're not having any of that, then it is like, it's a descend. It's like you go back in so you can feel again, so you can go through this process again, because it's ascending and descending. It's like this constant cycling. You're cycling through. You are, you're a soul cycle. You go through. And I don't know, if we all go back to that purest form, or if that is where the creation of the energy becomes when it questions itself and it begins the process to learn about itself. I don't know where, at what points through our process that we reach, that we cycle back. I mean, there's talk of, that the earth put out a call and that many souls listened to the call and were pulled, but there's just a connection when you're in the life that you just don't realize, like the soul, the energy that's out there, and all the realities that are available. And so I don't think, that we all want to get back, like how everybody always thinks, well, I want to get to heaven. I just want to go up there and be with God. But when you get to God of the purest form of love, there is no judgment. There is no, so is that really where you want to be? Someplace that feels like it's just empty space? Or do you want to go in and feel? Because feeling is where you find yourself. You understand yourself. You have this reflective ability to witness and see yourself. So it's all this whole process. And so where people are like, well, I just want to go to heaven. There's other realms. Like when we leave here, when you leave the game through death, you go into another realm. And there's no getting away from, you don't have to get caught up in what, these other people have done to you and all these other storylines. Because it is, they will face themselves. And everybody who's facing themselves should be able to see you can't get away from it. There is, and it's going to be the same way for all of them too. You can't get away from it. It's there. It's going to be with you when you're sleep. It's your soul trying to communicate. It's trying to get you to wake up and to see, to process, because we're at this time of this huge process, this ascension is happening. And so you have I think, because I have a couple of different things, because there's another thing too, is that so many people are cut off from themselves. So they're not in tune with themselves, which is very confusing. Like, people are very, very confused. And the big thing is you need to get in tune, in contact with yourself. But people don't realize that there's a self in there, that you aren't this. People are sure that this is what they are. It's like, no, you're the light inside. This is the image. This is the reflection. This is what you're here to use to see yourself. And it's part of the experience. And so, I was talking to somebody and they were talking about that they just want to run away from their life right now. They want to escape because it's so difficult. And I said, well, it's difficult because you're not being truthful. You're not being honest somewhere. You got to find where you're not being honest. You are, there's something like you're trying to please somebody else. You're going against your own inside. So, I mean, when people are cut off from that and they don't understand, they don't get like, you know, so you got to slow everything down, and you got to start, you know, going slower and noticing what is it that makes you all of a sudden feel that way. Where is it in your gut inside of you? You feel one way, but somebody else feels a different way. So then you put your feelings, how you feel about it, you know, you'll talk yourself out of it. You'll tell yourself, I mean, you can tell yourself a bunch of different things to figure out how to please this other person. Then you got to think like, well, why am I trying to please this other person? Why am I putting myself aside to please them? Can they not handle anything? I mean, because really you're hurting other people to just try and please them, please them, and please them, because you have to be uncomfortable to feel growth. Like that's a part of it. To get uncomfortable, to be in discomfort is what pushes you to grow, to change, to challenge yourself. And so you're doing a disservice to somebody if you're running around trying to make sure they don't feel bad. Well, I don't want them to feel bad. I don't want them to feel bad. Well, you're hurting them. And then so you got to go in and question that for yourself. Like, well, what, do I think that they're incapable? Am I trying to have them like me? Am I not showing my true self? Because that's going to make you feel bad about yourself because you're not truly being liked for yourself. So there's just so many veins to this. There's so many different ways to look, but you have to go into your process and slow it down and start questioning yourself. Why am I doing this? Who am I doing it for? Am I trying to control situations that I don't have control over? Because anytime you're trying to control situations you don't have control over, you're doing it through manipulation, you know, and this stuff is so clear. I mean, and it's in all these movies and stuff right now. I just watched this movie last night called The Holdovers, and it's a new one too. And it has Paul Garamut. Man, I just looked up his name because he just does this. He does so good with this. The guy in the movie's got two eyes going two different ways, and I was like, Giamatti. He's Paul Giamatti, and I was like, man, I always liked this guy. I think he's such a good actor. And, you know, hopefully he's not a, you know, baby eater, but he's such a good actor. And I was like, man, I've watched so many of his movies. I don't remember his eyes being this way. There's got to be some kind of contact. This has got to be some kind of thing. So I went and looked it up to see, you know, his eyes are normal all the time and other things. But he does this character good. But it's, you know, it's, it's like a drama, emotional drama movie, you know, but it's also one of change and growth and advancement. And, you know, it's like the blossoming of a person. It's like getting out of one way and becoming more, not just staying in your own structured world, but to go out of it and make more, to take that trust, to take that leap, to see, you know, and to stand in your truth and integrity. And so it has a lot of really cool stuff in the movie. And it's transformative. And you know, I won't say how it all goes, you know, but that, and then that other movie, The May December, it just coming out, you know, and it's showing so much, because to me, it was really showing how Natalie Portman started pulling on that dark energy. She started going into the darkness, and then it showed so well of this woman, this toxic behaviors of this woman, and her consumption of other people's energy. And it's an insatiable consumption. When somebody is in that state, it's insatiable. They just need, because they're trying to fill their cup up artificially. They're trying to feel good without feeling good. And so they will use everyone around them to try and give themselves this little, you know, a little dose of feeling good. But it's artificial and it's toxic. And, you know, I thought that movie just really brought it home, really represented it well. And then there's this other movie I'm seeing everybody talking about is the Obama one on Netflix. People are like, you've got to watch this. People are saying that Even the people who were involved in making it were freaking out that they were like, this is way too real. And for it to be him who was telling this story, which, you know, I think this is white hat shit. And, but they use different names and stuff. I just saw somebody talking about Trump keeps saying at these different rallies and stuff, he keeps talking about central casting because there's roles that are casted. There's people playing parts. They aren't the real people out there. And then you try and get people to understand that. And even if they'll say like, oh yeah, okay, that's not really Joe. Okay. But then they'll still bounce back and get all upset and angry like it's really him. And it's like, dude, it's not him. They're doing this stuff to get people mad. They're doing this outrageous shit to get people's attention. The amount of money is outrageous. The amount of what is going on in our own country. And there's a whole weird thing too. I'm telling you about this. All these homeless people, all these dogs being put to death, and our food. There's some weird shit. And I just saw this person who was sharing they were Red Lobster, and they got some lobster fettuccine or something, and they were sharing the video. They weren't even saying anything. They were just holding the camera over their food. I don't know what was in it. I don't know if it was bugs, definitely bugs crawling around in it. Like, oh my God. I just can't even stand to think of how many times I've gone to restaurants and just sat there and ate this stuff. Because you don't, just sitting there inspecting it. To me, it's like if you don't cook it, we got to get to the point if you don't grow it and cook it, then it's probably, not safe to eat. But definitely going out to these restaurants that are cutting corners, trying to make money and stuff like that. And it's all like, I'm sure there's not inspectors. I'm sure there's all sorts of shit going on. Food coming from places that it's tainted and stuff. But this had bugs just, some look like a worm on part, look like a baby roach on part. There's all sorts of stuff. It was like their food was moving. And, oh my gosh. I just keep seeing these people who all keep going out. They all keep trying to, keep life going as it was and make it all be the same. It's like, it's not the same. This is the world falling apart. And, even with the toaster oven thing, I was thinking, oh my gosh, because, Obama says that the power grid's going to go down. And I have a generator, but trying to hook up a generator, hook up your oven and stove and stuff. But see, I have a stove top and I have, out of my things that I could just plug in, because I have an air fryer, a bread maker, a stove top, the oven thing, toaster oven thing, but they're like mini ovens. It's like a little miniature oven that sits on your counter. So air fryer, oh yeah, and an Instapot. And my Instapot did something weird after I'd watched that lady's thing. But then I found it, so I don't know, because that's another thing too, is people are using some of their stuff and they're, blowing up and all sorts of shit is going on. This guy's air fryer blew up and started on fire. This lady's Instapot blew up and blew all over her. And I haven't seen her in a while, but her burns were bad. And, and I'm just, this girl, I just picture, I keep seeing too. And she keeps doing lots and lots of videos. And the other day, she was crying. It was her videos. She was a really pretty girl, you can tell, because half her face is still there. And she was very pretty. And she had a child with a guy who's an abuser. And he did the ultimate, and 3, 1 to the face, 1 to the heart, 1 to, I don't know, another vital organ, I don't remember, lung or brain or something. And she got 3 blasts. And so half of her face got blasted off. And this eye is jacked, this whole side of her face. And she was crying the other day, and she was saying that she just realized even that she's not been doing her healing. She's been holding everybody else's hand, trying to make it minimize what she went through because they're so traumatized. It's gonna make me cry because she was not feeling what she went through because she's so busy concerned with everybody else. And see, there's just so much toxic behaviors that people have. And you gotta stop and question yourself because, even when you're trying to protect people, it's like, but why? Are you saying that they are not capable? They're not capable of growth? They're not capable of facing themselves? Everyone is capable. We can't minimize. I talked about this stuff a long while ago when I was talking about with my brother and my sister. That my sister, she has kind of always been that helpless, someone rescue me, someone rescue me. My youngest brother has always been rescuing her. And then, he'll get mad. These people will come in and they'll rescue, but they'll get mad. And I tried to tell him, that you have a savior complex. You feel like you need to go in and save them, and it can be coming from a beautiful place inside of you. You don't want other people to feel bad. You don't want other people to struggle because you understand that feeling and you don't want anyone to have to feel that. But the thing is everybody has to feel it for themselves. You can't take everybody's pain away. You can't make things go away. You're not here to save the world. You're not here to make sure nobody feels things. You have to allow people to fall flat on their face so that they can get up and that they can champion themselves. They can grow out of it. And yeah, it's fucking hard. It's motherfucking hard to, fall down and have to pick yourself back up. But that's the power. That's the power play. And if you're going around trying to block everyone else's growth, trying to save them, and, oh, I don't want them to feel bad, I don't want them to feel bad, then you got to go in and question yourself again. So much of this shit that is going on is opportunities for you to witness yourself, to question yourself, to understand yourself, to see yourself at the purest level. And yeah, and it gets hard. Sometimes, you'll feel like a fucking villain watching people's lives fall apart. You got to just, witness it. You got to allow it, and let them, let them shatter. Let them shatter and pick up the pieces, because it's picking up the pieces and putting them back together. Hold on. That's when the symphony is written. That's the beautiful story. That's when it all comes together. The falling apart isn't the end. It's what you do with the pieces. That's the beautiful part. That's when the symphony's written. And it's emotional. Because that's when it's the one inside that champion yourself, for you to champion yourself, to see your value, to to understand the game in a broader perspective, to not be so caught up in pain and suffering, and to make choices, to it's champion yourself. It just seems like the most clearest thing. It's when you are the survivor. You're the menace too. You're both things. You're the survivor and the menace. You are the dark and the light. And, but it's you who find that purest form, that little perfect place. But it takes a lot of staring. You're going back and forth because people come in. You have triggers. You have people come into your life to see, how well can you stay where you are, and the challenges will become more and more difficult. You'll have people who will come, who will push you and push you and push you further and further to find your own balance. And so it's like the game doesn't end. The game keeps going. And so even when you get to that point of accepting yourself and, working on accepting and forgiving others, you will have challenges. You'll have people who will come in, they'll push you. I mean, so many different ways. A big thing for me was boundaries, because, I was, I don't know, it happens a lot with kids who are sexually abused, is, my house didn't have boundaries. And then I went out in the world and I didn't know, I didn't know people would push on you in ways that they'll push, that people will take advantage of you, that people will take you for granted, that people will hurt you and push you. Like I didn't know that. And so, I just kind of just kept going with the flow, just kept, trying to survive, treading water and trying to stay afloat. And, especially being a young person and going with older people, older men, then they, start telling you who you are, how you need to be, and you get lost in there. You get confused. Like I got body dysmorphia, I got angry, I got, like, there's a lot of things, um, because other people are telling you, other people can't tell you who you are. Even when they tell you that they know you better than you know yourself, they don't know you. They don't live inside of you. Who in the world do you think that you know better than themselves? It's impossible. Yeah, some of us do go around and are confused of who I am. We're going around like, are you my mother? Are you my mother? Trying to figure out who we are. Where do we fit in? And, especially there's lots and lots of us who couldn't find a place to fit in. We were always kind of shunned to the side. We were always like that oddball. There's a lot of scenes too where I'm sure it's Paul Gooch, Gooch, in the movie, the holdovers, that he has a lot of scenes because he's an oddball and he's interested in things that other people aren't interested in, and he'll start talking and then people will just stop and just look at him and I was like, oh my God, I could relate so much. Like something that's so important to you, you're trying to explain it and you just get empty stares back. A lot of times you get laughter. A lot of times you just get start talking to somebody who makes sense. Like any of us who are outside of the box, we've felt shunned. We have felt being on the outside, and we still had to keep going. We had to still, like even if we have nowhere to fit in, it's like, you got to make your own way. You got to accept yourself no matter what. And it's wild because through this transformation is so many of us that were on the outside, that were, oddballs, and people were like, thought we were so strange because we were bringing in something that they didn't understand. And I didn't even understand until all this stuff started happening. I didn't understand what I was bringing. I didn't understand. There's parts of myself I didn't understand. I didn't know why I was so different. I mean, they give you tons of labels, tons of labels where, well, I'm autistic, I'm neurodivergent, I'm attention deficit, I'm oppositional defiant, I'm depressed, I'm bipolar, I'm schizophrenic. They'll give you everything is, to give you something to hold on to. But it's limiting. It's all limiting. Being a human being is very limiting. All of their diagnoses and stuff is more limiting. I can't even believe now how much I look at being a human being as being a limitation. And especially right now where they're saying that, this stuff, it changed its molecular structure. They're no longer called human. They're called something else. It's like big fucking deal. Big fucking deal. You're not the thing that they're trying to label. You're the being inside. You're the soul. You're the passenger. You're not the vehicle. And so it doesn't matter what they want to call the vehicle. It doesn't matter the color of the vehicle. It doesn't matter the size of the vehicle. It doesn't matter that the stomach growls all the time. None of that stuff matters. It is, you got to get to you, the person inside of it all. And that, the labels is all limiting, to get you to be limited and think, you need to be a human being. Well, this is what a human is. It's like, yeah, but I'm not a human. I'm not a human being. I'm a soul that's here to have an experience that they call human. And even here now, because we're in a science lab and where they're changing that experience and trying to control it, they're trying to make, uh, there's something about they're plugging them in to to a web, to an internet. It's, and there's some spooky stuff about it, because, there's people who, putting out videos saying that, I had family members who were religious, who believed in God, and then they've gotten these things, and now they don't anymore. And, there's a voice, like there's a lot of stuff. And, and they're making people sick. They're just taking over control of people. And, but everybody who has any kind of control, because, that's part of the awakening, is the mind control we're all under. So you want to sit there and say these people who are no longer called human, well, they're under mind control. Well, so are you. Everybody is. That's what you're breaking free from. You're breaking free from mind control. You're breaking programs. You're breaking, you've been indoctrinated. You've been trained. You were birthed into a habitat, and then they trained you to accept it, to be a good citizen. And then they tried to cut the rest of the world out, just like in that movie, The Village. It's like the same thing. Everything that, all these different movies, like I think M. Night was always trying to get people to wake up. I think he's tried to wake people up a lot of times in his stuff. But yeah, we've been in this controlled environment. And yeah, they're going to say whatever it takes to get you to mind and, be a part of the environment that they are created. And then they want to hide everything that's outside of it. But that is the breaking free. That's what the vibration changes. You break free from the narrative, from the indoctrination, and you go out and you start seeing the world in a broader perspective. And then you start seeing, oh man, there's giants living in the mountains. There's creatures living in the sea. There's things hunting in the forest. Like there's other lands, there's other buildings, there's other structures, there's other civilizations that they've tried to keep hidden from us. There's just so much. And, there's no hiding it anymore. It's all coming to the surface. They are going, essentially, they are going underground and we are coming above it. And, it's as above, so below, like all these kinds of things, but the flipping over, the flipping into the truth. But like I've said this whole time, it starts inside of everybody. Like everybody's all like, well, I want the truth. I want the truth. Everybody wants this truth to be shown, which is being shown all the time. And everybody has their different parts that they're playing, the different levels. And then you have these people who get so angry and so mad at these stupid people, label them, these Dems, these liberals, these stupid people, these NPCs, all of that kind of stuff. And, there is a robotic sense in society because, like I've said a zillion times, that's lower chakra. That's when you haven't healed. You're on autopilot. You're just going through life as a reactive being. You're just reacting to what happens. You just react. And when you're being reactive, it's all based on your pain and suffering because you're in the lower chakra. You are basing everything on your pain. So that is when you will have reactions and stuff that, will come back to haunt you. You'll be like, oh my God, why did I do that? Why did I say that? Oh my God, I'm the worst person in the whole wide world. And that's hard to get over. You'll beat yourself up. But again, you can't stay in that energy. That's self-deprivation. That is ego-driven. That is, feel sorry for myself. You got to work through that. You got to be like, look, man, I've been a dick. They've been a dick. It's a part of the transition. It's a part of the transformation. Because as long as you are in victim mentality, our world is toxic. When everybody reaches that pinnacle point of empowerment, when they realize, you're both things, you're good and bad, then it puts us into a powerful, it's empowerment. It's when you're going and you are making choices, responsible choices for yourself. You're thinking them through. You have an awareness. You're no longer on autopilot. You've moved up. You've moved up the chakra system. And, you start thinking through your heart. You start speaking your truth. You start opening yourself up to the world that you can't see. And you start realizing it's real. So it's like a soul process. It's a stepping up. And, but there was something coming into my mind while I was saying that. Hold on. Because of the light, and the dark inside of the people, and that you always got to be keeping yourself in balance, but you got to figure out your balance. You can't base it on someone else's balance. You can't base it on someone else's life. It's yours. You becoming the most refined version of you. You're the one polishing it. You're the one shining it up. It's all you. It's your fucking win. That's why you're the champion. You champion yourself. You become the warrior, the hero. It's the hero's journey. It's, finding the God self in you. To worship yourself. Stop worshiping outside of yourself. To give yourself the value that you deserve. To understand you're a fucking warrior. This is shit you do. This is what you do. Like, you've been doing it for eons. This isn't something you need to sit and cry about. This is something that you're used to. The thing that gets you, is the vehicle. You just get caught up in the vehicle and the emotions and stuff. That's why it's a mastery, to pull yourself free from that and really connect to, your higher aspect of self. And the more you connect with your higher aspect of self, I'm telling you, the more it opens up, the more you move out of the pain and into observation. When you are witnessing things in a different way, you don't feel as caught up. You don't feel as pained. And you're a lot more accepting. You're accepting of other people. You're accepting of yourself. Even if, old Stanley Jack over here, if he pushes me and I find myself crazy trying to grab him and he's jumping everywhere, which, Crystal, I totally think you're right on the things. I think that they're definitely, because it's not just your son's puppy. It's not just this one. I've seen other videos of people talking about, like, man, I don't remember puppies acting so wild before. And then that one, Bold Glamour, she keeps, showing the one that she rescued and how out of control and wild it is. And so there's a lot of people who were talking about, and I mean, it only makes sense. I mean, they did it to these people, so yeah. And then the frequency and stuff. Like, I feel so certain that they are using, especially the dogs, and the dogs can see things, so don't forget that we can't see. And sometimes they'll just be out there barking and barking at something, and it's like, man, is there like an army of creatures walking through the streets right now? I can't see them with my eyes, but the dogs can see them. It's I don't know. We definitely are in a magical place, a place that is very different than what we have grown to believe it is, and I keep having these things that come in, but I can't see them clearly. And something keeps tickling my nose. Oh, yesterday too, I finally, after I went out and did all my shopping, went around and, out in public and everything, I just all the time, I can't see good. And so then even when I put on my reading glasses to try and see more clear, I still can't see good. It still has interference. And then I get out the magnifying mirror so I can try and see if there's a bunch of wild hairs all over my face going out, and I could usually on my moles, I'll feel, and they'll come out and they'll be really hard and stiff, so I can feel like, oh, there's a hair, and then you can pluck it. But I keep feeling like, oh, there's nothing there. The spearmint oil must be working great. So finally I get the mirror out and look at it, and it's like, oh, no, there's some long ass hairs. They're just so long and fine. And so I was like, oh my God, I'm going around looking like Miss Cave Woman. It's like, oh, well, that's being human. Why are we trying to pretend like, why do we try and pretend like we're not animals, for one thing? And that's what this avatar is. dress it up and make it act civilized. And when really, you need to get more in tune with that animal side of you, the side that's tuned into nature, the side that is here to experience what it is to be alive, and not, just, go to work and give somebody else this great life. So you just work and work and work and work because you're trying to please and you're trying to look good to other people. You're trying to be successful. You're trying to be something. And that's where you got to question, what am I trying to be? Why do I think it's not as valuable to just, live on a beach with a tribe and, not have mirrors around, not have TVs around, not have all this bullshit around? But that's why all this stuff is going to keep going down. Like everything is going to keep being taken away from us and taken away from us in a slow kind of manner. And the people, because this other thing just was trying to come in again. Hold on. Because it is the people who, so we get caught up in trying to people please and be something that we're not in order to fit in. And that becomes our whole life. It becomes our whole existence. But inside, we feel dissatisfied. We feel upset. We feel like we're not living our truth. We feel like we're having an internal battle, because we are. Because your soul wants to be recognized. And your soul doesn't need all those bullshit. It blows my mind how many people, and spiritual people too, come out, oh, you got to have this. You got to have that. Oh, you got to work on this. Oh, you got to get money. You got to, it's like, that I don't believe any of that. I believe that you got to find peace in yourself, and finding peace is like, figuring out, well, I don't need that. Well, I don't need that. Well, I don't need that to be happy. I don't need that to be happy. Really getting into, where do you find your joy? Where do you find happiness? How do you want to spend your time? And getting into the purest form of living, and living in your truth, living your day-to-day of how you want to be, where you want to spend your time, who you want to spend your time with. But it's hard right now because we're in this huge transition. Like these things aren't available. We're creating them. We're creating a new lifestyle. We're creating a new way of existing through all of this process. And so this process, has to occur. It's what happens to lead us to where we end up being. So we have to go through this. It's a part of the whole thing. And it's going to be more and more crazy. And, like I said, there's so many people, they want the truth. They want the truth. They want everybody to see the truth. But, and I've said it a bunch of times, that people don't realize that when the truth comes, it's going to be your truth. Your truth will be all you can see. Like there's a lot of these people who I see out here, and they get madder and madder, like the Sam Kinison, Bold Glamour, just get madder and madder and frustrated. And, wants the truth out there, spending every waking moment trying to get the truth out there. And then when the truth is out there, all she's going to be able to see is her attitude, her anger, her judgment. It's crazy, but that's how it's going to work. It's going to work for all these different people like that. You're either going through it now, or you're going to, when the lights come on. And when the lights come on, there's going to be a lot of people who are going to be going through it. I think the people who are going through it now, it's hard. When I went through it, it was like nobody was going through it. And so now, you have way more people. But when the lights come on, that is when it's going to be huge amounts of people. So all these people who want the truth is being around us all the time. The truth is coming out, just like, Trump to keep saying this stuff. Central casting's doing real good. And all these things that keep playing out, where people get so caught up in it. There's things that are storylines where arrests are really happening. Like, there's really going to be arrests. There's really going to be lots of people are going to go down. There's really going to be people, from neighborhoods and families that are going to go down because of the parts they played. That's going to be the truth. The truth is going to be you, the individual, the soul. You know, there's going to be a truth that's going to be micro, macro. Yeah, the truth of this reality is going to be exposed, but the truth you won't be able to get away from is going to be you and your behavior, your attitude. But that's where you got to see it's a gift. You can't get caught up in the being mad at yourself and hating yourself, and you can't believe how horrible a person you are and all that. You got to let it go. You got to work through it. You got to see, you know, like it's a part of the vision. It's a part of the transition, but it's a gift. It's a gift for you to get to see the dark side of yourself, because you know, I mean, it's the only way forward. You know, that's how we create a beautiful world. I mean, as it is, we've got people who just all go around who won't look at this other side of themselves. They just, you know, they're caught up. They're caught up in either trying to please people and be a fake person, be the victim, be the savior. Everybody's just deep in their role, and so you know you have to see the other side of that role. See, that was a loud crash. I don't know. Sometimes it's like, you don't know if it's like all the snow falling off of something and that makes the loud crash, or if a tree falls, like I mean, I could hear it probably fall if it was pretty far, but the water, it just keeps pouring and pouring and pouring. When I open the door, there's still all the snow. It's like, what is all this water pouring? The branches are still hanging, and so is it raining on top of the snow, and the snow's not melting, and it's just becoming slush. But see, this is the scary thing is that's when they jack the temperature and freeze it. So then you have snow, slush, rain, and frozen, and it's a fucking mess. And that's, you know, it's just this constant creation of these, you know, really messy environment. But, you know, it's like on all different things. Man, my stomach is growling like crazy. It's on all different things. Oh, yeah, you know, with my tea. So I went and got all these new bags. I even got, there's some collagen, the lion's mane. And so I made some mixes. So I did some combos. So I don't have to go through 10 or 15 or how many ever, a lot of little jars, and putting in my scoop out of each jar. And so I made some mixes, and it's so crazy. I knew before I did it too, that I knew I was going to lose something, and I don't know how it happens. Even this morning, I had to like do 3 scoops out of each one, and it's like there's flavors off. And I tried to mix everything equally, and I always put it equally in my cup. So I don't know. It's weird. It's just weird. I don't know. It's strange. But anyways, you know, all this storms, like I had said before too, is some of the places that some of the storms are happening. There's certain energies in these places that are being released. There's certain energies that have, you know, there's so much going on all these different levels. And I just saw a guy I think he was in Chicago, Boston or Chicago airport. And I'm pretty sure it was Chicago. And they have roped off this whole giant part of the airport that now houses people, migrant, not homeless people. Like, only if you're a homeless migrant, you get the housing, the money, the phone, the food. You know, they give you everything that you want at those places, but not the homeless people. Those people, they get gathered up in vans and taken to processing plants and, you know, just redistributed. It's sickening. It's so sickening. And but you know, and I don't even know what's going on. Like, I just heard, you know, the news is trying to blame this on MAGA or something. Like, they're trying to say this is because of him, why we have all these people. Like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, oh my God. How, believing some of this nonsense that they say, you have to be so cut off from reality. Like, you have to not be paying attention to anything to believe the nonsense that they're saying. And that's a part of it too. There's going to be people who are going to be who have believed all this nonsense. And they are going to find humility when the mirror comes up before them and all they can see is themselves. They're going to feel humility, ignorance, arrogance, judgmental. Like all those things are all things inside of us. We all have them inside of us. We're all here to process different things. I mean, it all has to do with your your imprint, your DNA, your soul. It has to do with your different lives, the different things that your roles that you play, and opportunities to balance. And so everybody has their own stuff. It's not like it's a one size fits all plan. No, everybody is very distinct and unique, and it's meant to be that way. We're not all meant to do it the same. We're not all meant to be the same. We're meant to be creators, to create our own avenues, our own ways to find ourselves, our own ways to champion ourselves. And in the environment, in all of these things are the challenges. All of these things are the obstacles that you have to overcome to get to where you want to go. And I don't know what's gonna go down with all of these migrants and stuff. Like, I know some were heading back home. I mean, they didn't want to be here in this shit ass weather, and they weren't getting what they were promised. And the whole thing was to create chaos. But also, I know that there's another, because there's multiple facets of everything. And I know one of the facets is moving us towards safer places. And I know that that has so much to do with California and New York being hit so hard. I mean, I just feel so certain they're trying to get people on their own to become outraged, to want more for themselves, to get out of this like city life and what they're willing to accept so they can be a New Yorker or a Californian, and to push them to want more, to want better. It's that part of them that has to be like, man, I want something more. I want something better. That is the push to get them out of the environment that's been created. And I know that this is being pushed really hard in order to bring that up in people, to get that part of them, to light that fire underneath them. And so many people are so robotic. They're just so on autopilot, and that's why all this outrageous shit keeps happening. It's trying to get people to wake up, to realize what's going on. And I just saw a map, and it said for the closed indictment was like 125,000, and it showed the different states, and in every state, how many were in each state. And there's a few numbers I can remember because I was looking at different ones trying to see. Up here where I'm at, there's 3,133. In California, it's like 25,000. Most is in California, from what I could see. In Texas, there's like 15,000. So lots in Texas, but you got to think of these border towns and the churches, and that they've used these kids. Like, this is, all these people have used other people. That's against God's law. I don't know if I've made that clear. I keep trying. But when you step over someone else's energy, you're going against God's law. You're going against their rights as a soul. And, and there's all different things, like my husband and me, he was older and, tried to control me or whatever for me to be what he wanted me to be so he could be happy. And, but I also submitted. So I also, but that's where there's these things from other lives that you're playing out too. And but there's other ones, where people are, there's a lot of these where it's all on, it's all like on a spectrum. Really, it has to do with your intentions. It has to do with what you're trying to do. Like, there'll be parts of it where you have to face your own control, your own pain, and your own enemies, your own demons. And then there's other ones where people are going to have to see that they are vindictive perpetrators, and that's the energy that's leaving the planet. That energy has no other place to go. these people who think like, oh, well, this kid's got, we can use him, we can do whatever we want. This is a God's creature. That's a God's creature, all these creatures, everything that's alive. And so, and I'm not talking about a man up in the sky, I'm talking about an energy. And so the people who think that they can, just, consume someone else. And so it's on all these different levels, but that's what's, there's all this stuff coming out with the CPS and stuff. I saw another case yesterday, because they just keep coming and coming and coming. And this one was 2 couples, so they're arrested and charged. And I don't even know the whole story, but the guy worked for CPS, so he knew how to play the system. And so they were, I don't know, getting kids to be their slaves. Slave trade was going on. It's been going on for a long time. They've been using these kids. They've been taking them. And this one, I don't know, they were passing, I don't know. There's some warped shit. I mean, there was the other one of those couple of guys who they were adopting all these, kids, like, oh, don't they look like the greatest guys adopting these kids, when they were really having ORGYs, making these kids do stuff. They were trading them out. They let people, they were, using them as sex toys. And you've got a lot of these people out there who have used children as sex toys, and that is, that, I think there's a big reason why Trump said any of that. That's where you're going to find yourself. It's over. And that's why I said there's going to be a lot of people. People are not going to see it coming, that are going to have that type of ending. Will be where they'll go. And I don't know when they go, where they go. I don't know. That's the thing. Is, they just pass and go to their review and then go back to where they were from. Because you can't leave things, there's just certain things, like, you have to fix them. It's always around the same time. Okay, I'm gonna hang up. So anyways, let me think if there was anything else. I feel like I'm just touching on all these things, but I've been touching on all these things for so long. I think that, it's more just keep tying it all together, putting the pieces together. And Mrs. Grumbles is saying enough is enough. So anyways, just keep working on it, and, just assume that at some point the powers are going to be going down. This is, I don't know. I want to see that movie. I went on to Plex. That's how I saw the other one, The Holdovers, because I want to see, I feel like my brother's definitely going to put it on, because he has so many of those end of the world videos, apocalyptic movies. So as soon as I can see it, I'm going to see it and see what all it says, and I'll report back. But I'm seeing a lot of people talking about it, and so I'm sure on Twitter and stuff they are too. But anyways, so we'll end it here, and just keep working on you. But this is very important, to keep facing yourself. That's what all this is happening for, is to find you. You got to keep looking back at you. And even when things are uncomfortable and you don't want to see that side of yourself, it's a gift from the universe to see it. You don't, it's all opportunities and challenges to grow and to become better, to become the purest version of self that you want to become. And so work on you, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.